Another thing you can do when busking is you can put content effects onto masters and play them back reasonably manually using some tools that are more helpful to you than doing it all live in the device controls dock. You can record palettes that have specific setups for your effect playbacks or parts of your effect playbacks. We used masking to create this sequence of what we were recording. I'm going to clean up here a little bit and turn these things off. I'm going to turn off the mask as well for the moment, but that masking function you can also use to mask effect playback parameters. And that way you can pick and choose what kind of parameters you might want to store into an all palette so that you can adjust your live running effects accordingly. I'm going to make another new page because I feel like it. So 103, again, it's another empty page, nothing on it. And I'm going to change my type here from auto group to all palette because I've already set some of these up earlier. So I can put effect playbacks onto master playbacks very simply. And this is like putting a channel onto a master playback. So I'll open my live effects window here so that you can see how this works. The master key now becomes a selection button for my different effect playbacks. You can see as I go from one to the next, it's creating a different selection for me. This is how I can gain control of these effects very easily. So if I take effect 1, when I raise the fader, nothing happens on stage because all the fader's doing in this case is riding the intensity of this effect playback, effect number 1, from 0 to full. The flash key is doing a similar thing. It's flashing the intensity of that effect playback from 0 to full. Once I've got the effect playback configured, I can use the flash key or the fader to bring that effect onto stage. Now, this is an effect playback that's completely in the home state, which means it's not configured to do much of anything at all. Once I've got some bits and pieces in, my groups, for example, or maybe channel sets if I have the time to set them up, and some series that do different things, the intensity series is provided for you, so it's an easy one to start with. I can create configurations here in the device controls dock, like saying group 1 should have 6 parts and work interlaced and run intensity and blah, blah, blah. And then when I bring this fader up, you can see that the lights start doing an intensity chase based on those manual settings. Having to think about all of those things in a live busking environment, however, might not be the best thing. It's a lot of setup that you have to do, and in the meantime, the band has moved on. So if you have some of these that you like to recall quickly, you can record them as all palettes, which I've done here. So I can bring up both of these effect playbacks and select both of these effect playbacks, and that was master key, hold plus, and hit the next master key to get both of them. And then I can apply an all palette I created earlier that has settings for the front row of spotlights and the back row of spotlights separately. So you can see they're running at different speeds because that's how the 2 effect playbacks have been set up. Now I see I've used this particular all palette called Intensity Chase. I know, very, very original. Here's another one, Intensity Chase 2, which just looks a little bit different. Again, it's using 2 effect playbacks because the front row and back row are being controlled independently in this case, which means at any time, frankly, I could grab control of just one of them and make an adjustment, which is always good live. I could set one of these playbacks to one of the chases and the other one to another one entirely. And I'll select those both again so you can see now we've got one running Intensity Chase 1 and one running Intensity Chase 2, and so on and so forth. These palettes might configure the entire effect playback. They might configure everything but the grouping that you're running it on, which gives you a little bit more flexibility in being able to change the grouping very quickly. However you want to do it, and however specific or broad you want to make these palettes, it turns controlling live running effects into more of a single button push than having to do all this live configuration and thinking in the heat of the show. So far, everything that I've shown you has been pretty much using the masters in front of you. And all those masters are live all the time, meaning you can turn them on and off, you can change their content, you have control of them. In this particular case, on a Cobalt 10, I have 20 playbacks that I could be controlling live at any given moment. One of the cool features, I think, of the Cobalt system is a different kind of way of using your masters, and that's called two-scene masters. I hold fader mode, and I press the button above the two-scene option. On my screens, you can see two-scene has been indicated, and that's because my masters are now operating in a very different way. Instead of a bank of 20 live things that I can turn on and off and change and control on the fly, what I've got is one row, the upper row of masters, that are being used blind, and one row of masters that's being used live. Blind is always on the top. Live is always on the bottom. And what I can do is I can set up content in the upper row and then use the playback controls in the center of the console to fade that composed look into the live state so that I can keep playing with it later on. Depends on how much you can think in this sort of fashion. Some people use two-scene mode simply to give themselves always a safe look, and that might be a blackout even, on the upper row that they can go back to cleanly at any time. In this case, I've loaded some content onto the top to show you what happens when you fade from top to bottom. So these are those sequences that we had before and the groups that we had before. So I can activate the washes and the spots in blind. You notice nothing happens on stage. And then I can use the sequences below to pick a specific focus or color or gobo until I'm happy. And we'll see what I just created when I hit go. And now this combined look of these colors, focuses, and images that were created by the sequences plus the intensities that were set by the groups will get faded as one complete stage state into the bottom row. If I just hit go, the system will use the time that is indicated here in this bar. And the last time I used this, I entered a 1 before I hit go. So now the time is 1 second. I could hit any number, 3, and hit go. And now the scene will fade in 3 seconds. I could change what the look is supposed to look like such. Oops, that's not going to be very interesting. Like such. And hit go again. And now you can see the whole stage changes, the washes and the spots, to whatever it is I've pre-configured up here in the blind view. So you can either use it like an old style two-scene preset console where you're really setting up an entire look on the top row. Or like I said before, you could use the top row simply to give yourself always a known state to come back to or to clean up whatever it is you've created on the bottom row live. And the bottom row is live. So I can be changing things on the bottom row live and then always come back to a nice safe look from the top. And that's two-scene mode. To get back out of two-scene mode, I simply hold my fader mode key again and choose the masters mode, and I get back the content I had before, and I can carry on working.